Hi, everyone. I would like to thank Anantha, Dennis, and the committee for the invitation to speak today and the honor of addressing future researchers and technology leaders in our industry with this introduction to the student research preview. Today, I'll be sharing some career advice. Because we are virtual this year, I am providing my own introduction. My name is Jen Lloyd. I spent about a decade at MIT where I received 3 degrees, including a PhD in 1997. From there, I started my career at Analog Devices, initially in Massachusetts, and have been in our Silicon Valley office for the last 7 years. My technical background is in data converters, sensor interfaces, and serial interface technology. I've held a number of roles at ADI, including responsibility for instrumentation, healthcare, and consumer businesses. Currently, I manage our precision businesses from amplifiers to data converters to isolation and interface technology. I've been involved with several IEEE conferences, including VLSI Circuits and CICC, and presently I'm on the ISSCC2021 subcommittee for reviewing work on imagers, MEMS, medical, and display, and am the co-chair of the Biomedical Systems session this ISSCC. Around the time that Anantha asked me to give this talk, I had progressed my stay-at-home pursuits from Netflix binging and baking onto film scanning. I came across this photo from the early 1990s. This shows me and 2 of my good friends in our office at MIT where we were graduate students. A lot has changed since this time. This photo predates Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. There were no AirPods, no iPhones, no smartwatches. There was no Bluetooth, although that was coming soon. For IC designers, we used Sun workstations. We had no LVS capability available to us at the time, although that was also coming soon. Research labs like IBM, HP Labs, Bell Labs were the hot places to start your career. We thought AI was a fad, maybe even dead. Machine learning, big data, SpaceX, autonomous vehicles were ideas, concepts, companies, all in the unknown. It got me thinking about what kind of career advice would I have given my younger self, and what advice I'd like to share with you today. By 1997, the 3 of us in the photo had all graduated from MIT and went to work at 3 different semiconductor companies: Maxim Integrated Products, Analog Devices, and Linear Technology. While I've been at Analog Devices, we have acquired several companies. In 2014, it was Hittite Microwave, followed by Linear Tech in 2016. Pending approval of the transaction, by the summer of 2021, Analog Devices will acquire Maxim Integrated. My MIT friends and I will find ourselves once again in the same office, almost literally, as we are 3 based in Silicon Valley, working for the same company more than 2 decades later. This is representative of the consolidation going on in our industry, the changes that have happened during my career of now 23 years, and the recent acceleration of those changes. This is not something any of us would have predicted at the time. So the subject of my advice for you is that things will change. That's not anything new, but the speed at which change is taking place, the diversity of businesses and research areas it's affecting, and the amount of innovation it's driving are what you need to be prepared for and think ahead to your approach. So how can you plan for a future of changes? It's going to be all about your mindset. I'm going to use a couple of metaphors from my colleague Dave Robertson. One approach you can take is to adopt a fortress mentality, entrenching in one particular area and honing your deep expertise through knowledge and experience. Many of you presenting at the SRP are likely graduate students developing deep knowledge in an area and doing this already. This is not easy to do in a sustained manner. What you will likely discover is that there is a 3 to 4 year half-life to knowledge in our industry. You must commit to keep on learning techniques, tools, whatever it takes to stay with and get ahead of the state of the art. To succeed, you need to develop another mindset, the surfer mentality. The industry buzzword for this is agility. This is about learning beyond your specialty. It can also be about adapting to what is happening in the world or industry, moving quickly and applying your expertise in new areas and applications. The importance of agility is being able to connect your expertise to new problems and to let new problem spaces drive advances in your area of expertise. I think this is a good visual that will let you think about this. This chart is showing 3 linked S-curves. S-curves are used to describe the life cycle of many things: products, companies, industries, and megatrends. which go through an initial disruptive and accelerated phase of adoption, but saturate as they reach scale or limits. Information and communications technology moved from one S-curve to the next as we went from mainframes to workstations to PCs to now wireless devices and computing in the cloud. Moore's law drove the underlying technology to better and better levels of compute efficiency, enabling these disruptions. I was thinking about where I started from this perspective, working on data converters. It's handy that Boris Merman has been tracking data converter performance since the beginning of my career in '97, and we can look at how things have evolved. This graph shows high-resolution data converter power efficiency. For this class of a converter, we typically look at the Schreier figure of merit. The higher FOM in this case is better. It's actually pretty amazing that this FOM has sustained improvement of more than 10x per decade over the span of the survey. Both circuit and architectural improvements have enabled this. Ideas like Cation-C noise cancellation and the use of dynamic amplifiers created advancements. The overall improvement is extrapolated as a straight line, but imagine that it's really a series of smaller S-curves created by the technology disruptions like moving process nodes, going from bipolar to CMOS, oversampling, calibration, and interleaving. To get from where we were in '97 to where we are today in data converters required deep collective expertise in the industry to drive these leaps in innovation. You can also relate this to the surfer model in your career. Having the agility and awareness to move to the next S-curve is really important. Let me describe an application example to make the point another way. For a couple of years, I ran the healthcare business at ADI, which means I was thinking about disruptions in this market and where ADI's technology fits in. For many years, if you needed advanced care beyond your local primary care physician, you had to go to a hospital. Depending on where you live in the world, that could be a 2-minute drive away or a 3-hour drive. Technology advancement, combined with the need to drive costs down, enabled local and regional clinics to emerge such that today, if you need an X-ray, an MRI, or even a minor surgery, it can be taken care of at a clinic. Technologies are growing in point-of-care diagnostics. An example is the butterfly ultrasound probe that brings a low-cost AI-driven solution that each doctor can carry with them in their pocket, or Hyperfine's MRI that can bring complex imaging technology to the bedside. Telehealth and remote patient monitoring become possible with new sensing technology, cloud-connected devices, and AI and algorithms to create insights from data for doctors and caregivers. Technology is enabling care to move from hospital to home. We've seen an acceleration of this technology adoption during the pandemic. Understanding what's happening in the market and bringing technology to power the disruption is what surfing the wave is all about. So how can you do that? Well, innovations today are more and more multidisciplinary and require working across boundaries. I talked about how surfing the waves and being agile means looking to where your expertise can be applied in application areas you're passionate about. And there are several aspects to this. One is really understanding use cases. In healthcare, this means understanding the medical environment, the hospital, emergency room, clinic, and other settings, and how technology can provide breakthroughs in patient care, outcomes, and costs. The butterfly example I gave stemmed from the recognition that ultrasound capability provided at a much lower cost point would be useful in point-of-care situations to improve outcomes. Second, I already talked about domain knowledge and developing deep expertise. This is very valuable for advancing the underlying technology. Often that expertise lies in several areas, so we need to work in teams to advance the state of the art. Each member of the team needs to be able to speak each other's language. For circuit designers, this means speaking the language of the doctor or biomedical engineer on the team. The doctor doesn't need to know how to design an op-amp, and the circuit designer doesn't need to know how to invent a new medical procedure, but they need to be able to communicate about these topics. Being fluent in multiple domain languages can really increase your impact. As circuits people, we used to think of the design teams as having the analog designer and the digital designer. In our industry, products have become so much more complex. Just the number of designers and design functions has grown significantly. The amount of verification engineers required even on a mixed signal data converter exceeds the number of analog designers. Teams have become a lot more complex. To solve application problems, there are many domains that come together. Using the healthcare example, you've got to understand not just the analog and digital for power and area, but bring together clinical expertise for the usability and patient compliance, regulatory for the safety and market time constants, software and algorithms to extract useful data, AI to incorporate learning, biomedical expertise, and so on. This gives you an idea of how broad you need to be able to integrate your expertise. What's become even more exciting is extending beyond teams internal to one company or research institution. Really rapid change can take place when we work to solve problems across the boundaries of academia and industry, or between companies and research labs. A recent example of this is the first COVID vaccine approved for emergency use. It was jointly developed by two pharma companies, Pfizer and BioNTech. We also see business and academia contributing in this area, with Oxford University and AstraZeneca working together. Government is another entity that can play a role in change. Operation Warp Speed provided funding for R&D as well as logistical support for vaccine distribution. Partnering to achieve scale or speed is going to be our future, and your agile mindset will be important. Since I'm on the subject of COVID, the pandemic has been horrific in terms of the human and economic toll, but the disruption the pandemic created has shown us a few things. I'm personally excited about the focus it has put on environmental realities and the need for sustainability initiatives. The pandemic necessitated removing barriers to telehealth, also a promising technology for our future. How we learn, interact, and collaborate may change permanently. It showed us the value and necessity of flexibility. At Analog Devices, we had to quickly focus our efforts on what was demanded by the outbreak. We were an essential business for power and mixed-signal ICs used in ventilators, CT scanners, and telehealth applications. Overall, the future for circuit designers is going to be pretty exciting. The huge explosion in data presents many challenges for transporting higher and higher data rates, storing data, and integrating sensors and renewable sources for power management and power efficiency of data centers. Healthcare has been moving from hospital to home. Being able to remotely monitor and manage chronic diseases or discover diseases before they progress requires technology advances in wireless portable electronics, vital signs measurement at very low power, and high levels of measurement and communication reliability. Electrification of vehicles holds the promise of fewer carbon emissions. There are a number of challenging problems to enable this, particularly around the battery management systems, which require precise measurement and control for both the formation and monitoring of batteries. Monitoring the health of batteries and ensuring second lives beyond the vehicle is a sustainability imperative. Finally, renewables and the promise of cleaner energy generation has a number of technology issues. Insertion of renewables into the grid presents many measurement and control challenges to ensure grid stability, once ensured by the inertia of traditional power generators. These are just a few examples of areas offering opportunity to impact with your expertise in design. I encourage you to push past traditional boundaries and apply your expertise to these areas, and in future to the areas that are today unknown. This will make you an impactful innovator. To close the talk, I wanted to give you two examples of innovators who have applied these principles. Leonardo is a quintessential innovator. He put together physiology, art, and engineering, generating new ideas and fueling the great learning and discovery of the Renaissance. Let me introduce a modern-day innovator, Bob Adams. Bob is one of the first people I met at Analog Devices and someone I have admired throughout my career. Bob is an IEEE Fellow, but he's also an Audio Engineering Society Fellow and an accomplished jazz musician. At ADI, he has led amazing innovations in audio, but has also created breakthroughs in algorithms for VSM applications. Like Leonardo, Bob has been able to apply expertise from multiple domains to problem solving. Of course, being the next Leonardo or Bob Adams is an extremely steep challenge, but something to aspire to. I can't go back and give myself advice, but I can offer it to you. To summarize, I'd say be good at something, bring expertise to the table, build your fortress of expertise. At the same time, be a surfer, be agile, keep your mind and eyes open for meaningful problems in the world around you. Learn to be technically multilingual across domains. If you can do both these things, you'll find success in a bright, even if unknown, future. Thank you for your attention, and please feel free to reach out to me with comments or questions.